But inside American prison camps, one unexpected meal would shatter everything Japanese soldiers believed about honor, enemies, and themselves.
They were trained to die, not to surrender. They expected torture, not mercy. But inside American prison camps, one unexpected meal would shatter everything Japanese soldiers believed about honor, enemies, and themselves. This is the true story of how hamburgers changed lives. For Japanese soldiers in World War II, surrender was worse than death. From the first day of training, they were taught that capture erased honor forever. A soldier taken alive was considered already dead in spirit, a disgrace to his family, his ancestors, and the emperor himself. So, when the Pacific War began to collapse for Japan in 1944, thousands of soldiers faced an impossible reality. Isolated on islands, surrounded by overwhelming American firepower. Starving, wounded, and abandoned, many realized the war was lost long before the orders admitted it. Some chose death. Others, barely alive, laid down their rifles. They expected the worst. Japanese propaganda had painted Americans as brutal savages men who tortured prisoners for fun, who starved captives or killed them outright. So when American medics treated their wounds instead of beating them, confusion replaced fear. When they were given water, blankets, and food, disbelief set in. Soon they were transported across the Pacific Ocean, farther than most had ever imagined traveling. Days turned into weeks aboard ships bound east. Many believed they were being taken to forced labor camps or execution grounds. Instead, they arrived in places they had never heard of: Texas, Arkansas, Arizona, behind barbed wire fences in quiet rural landscapes. Japanese POWs waited, uncertain if this calm was only temporary. Every instinct told them danger was coming. They didn't know it yet, but their greatest shock would not come from violence. It would come from kindness, and from a meal that would forever change how they understood the enemy. Life inside the American POW camps followed strict routines. Roll calls, assigned work, medical checkups, 3 meals a day. To the Japanese prisoners, this alone felt unreal. They waited the punishment that never came. Then one afternoon, something strange happened in the mess hall. The smell came first rich, warm, unfamiliar. Guards carried trays holding round pieces of bread with cooked meat inside it. Alongside them were glass bottles filled with a dark, fizzy liquid. The guards called it a hamburger. The drink was called Coca-Cola. Many prisoners hesitated. Some believed it was a trick. Others wondered if the food was even safe to eat. Meat inside bread was unusual. The drink fizzed like nothing they had ever seen. Finally, one man took a bite, then another. The silence broke. Faces changed, shoulders relaxed. Some laughed in disbelief. Others stared at the food as if it came from another world. The bread was soft, the meat was warm and flavorful. The drink was sweet, cold, alive with bubbles. For men who had survived on rice, roots and scraps for years, this felt almost unreal. But the food itself wasn't the most powerful thing. The message was that if Americans were monsters, why were they feeding their enemies better than their own army ever had? If this was cruelty, why did it feel like dignity? In that moment, decades of fear, propaganda, and hatred cracked. The hamburger didn't just fill their stomachs, it challenged everything they believed about the war. As weeks turned into months, camp life continued peacefully. Some prisoners worked on farms, others played baseball with guards. Music groups formed, conversations happened careful at first, then genuine, and food remained a powerful symbol. Hamburgers appeared again. Coca-Cola returned not as a weapon, but as a reminder that the enemy lived differently, confidently, without fear of scarcity. Many prisoners began to realize something unsettling. America's power wasn't only its weapons, it was its abundance. Its belief that even enemies deserved basic humanity. When the war ended, the prisoners were sent home to a devastated Japan. Cities were ashes. Food was scarce. Hope was thinner still, but they carried memories. Years later, small shops began selling something new: hamburgers. Bottles of Coca-Cola followed. What once symbolized the enemy slowly became a symbol of recovery, modern life, and peace. Few former POWs ever spoke openly about their captivity, but in quiet ways, their experiences reshaped how Japan saw America and how they saw themselves. History often remembers wars through battles and treaties, but sometimes the real turning point is much smaller. Sometimes peace begins with bread and beef, with sugar and bubbles, with a single meal that reminds broken men they are still human.